Welcome to Inside the Lane, a focus segment of the Our Parking Industry podcast hosted by TPN.
In this segment, we explore the ideas, innovations, and conversations shaping the parking industry, from industry partners to timely topics impacting the parking experience.
These short episodes create space to spotlight organizations, share perspectives, and dive into what's new and noteworthy across our industry.
Let's step inside the lane.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Our Parking Industry podcast. We are having a special episode of Inside the Lane. Today, we have Bob Andrews, the CEO of Zevtron, joining us, and we are so excited to hear about Zevtron is shaping the industry, supporting parking, and helping solve some of these problems that we come across in our daily lives in the parking industry. So, Bob, can you tell us a little bit about Zevtron and how you're supporting the parking industry?
Yeah, thanks for having me on here. It's a real pleasure to be here. And happy to tell you about Zevtron. Zevtron's an EV charging solutions company, and we come about EV charging from probably a little bit of a different perspective than what the market has seen in the past. What historically, EV charging solutions or EV charging companies have come in kind of on their own into the parking industry, oftentimes through like a sustainability angle or buying experience. But it has been, I think everybody knows, or anybody with an EV knows, that there's been some challenges with the rollout, which is expected. It's a complete shift in how society fuels their vehicles. And it's opened up a lot of opportunities, quite frankly. And where Zevtron comes in is we have a full suite EV charging platform and hardware. And what we do is we come in it from the parking industry, where we partner with parking companies and we take the elements out of the parking industry and are applying them into the EV charging business. And for example, we partner with parking operators. We partner with PARCS companies. We work with best-in-class parking operators. And what that affords a site host or an owner of a facility is they have already gone through the exercise of identifying a parking operator that is very good, knows what they're doing, executes well. And that's kind of the first line in operations of a parking facility. And we understand that if there's a problem with EV chargers, that their customers are going to go to the operator. What's happening here? So working with the operator, it affords a much quicker response time. It allows a feedback loop to ensure that there's a good product and a good customer experience. And if there's any service challenges, that occurs in a very timely manner. So we come at it from as a part of the parking industry. We also integrate with park systems, and there's a number of parks providers that we integrate with. So that also provides a better customer experience for a driver coming in who, instead of having to go through a separate transaction experience with this completely separate third party, this is a one-stop paying experience, and it's much more efficient for the parking operator or the site host, the parking company owner, to reconcile cash or cash receipts, I should say nowadays, get away from cash, but it's a much more straightforward transaction that occurs. And we integrate, we also white label the experience. So for example, when a driver is coming in, they're trading with the company or doing business with the company they're doing business with. It's not some third party company that is putting their brand first ahead of the structure, the parking operator or the site's branding, because branding is important. I know that a lot of drivers go to particular brands because they value the service that's provided at that brand, and we believe that that's a better way to proceed. So we integrate with the local systems, we integrate and work with a local operator. And then lastly, our solution is designed for parking in that it handles all the different use cases. As you may know, a lot of the EV charging systems, it's kind of a siloed system, almost like going up to a gas station pump, and it handles a use case. Where our system, and why it's been embraced by the parking industry, is it facilitates all the different use cases that parking facility experiences, where you have monthly parkers, you have transient drivers, and all of the different use cases. So it's been a well embraced solution. We're happy to be a part of the the parking industry. A lot of our team members come from the parking industry. I mentioned Chris McKenty earlier, who has been in the parking industry for quite a long time. Seth Shurtleff has been around for, I think everybody knows Seth. And so we're happy to be coming at it from the parking industry, as opposed to a company that is an outsider who really doesn't understand it and is trying to force their way in.
I love all of those philosophies. So going to the parking operator directly because you know that the asset owner is comfortable and happy with them because they're still in place and they made that choice. And so being able to partner with them and know that you're already starting out on a solid footing and foundation is so smart. I love that. Yes, Chris and Seth, very well known in the industry. So being able to utilize their talents and their connections is also amazing. What is the ideal location for Zevtron, and what is the least ideal location for Zevtron?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I think the ideal location for Zevtron is where we can fix pain points or activate the facility so that it is a profitable experience for them. Where a lot of the EV charging deployments in the past have been maybe not necessarily a return on investment experience. It's primarily like, hey, maybe we got a grant here, or we want to pop up a couple of chargers. But the way we view it is, this is an exercise in capitalism here. And what comes with that is a good customer experience, a profitable experience, and positioning an organization or an asset for the future when other things like energy management come into play, maybe autonomous vehicles come into play, and things like that, which is where we are positioned for our clients. So a site that is maybe just going to drop in a couple of chargers just to check a box, that's probably not the best location for us. A site where they want to maintain a great customer experience, they want to fulfill their customers' needs, and they want to position the asset for future opportunities. And what's really unique about this is we're in the process of shifting transportation fueling, which was one of the largest market segments in the world, from a petroleum-based fuel to electrified fueling. And a byproduct of that is opportunity. We can drop an appliance into a parking facility, and what comes with that? There's just a ton of opportunities that comes with that. One of the largest is customer experience, where if you think about when you get in your vehicle, we're all conditioned to have to go find a gas station, pull over, spend a few minutes, take care of that. Where the industry is going to migrate to eventually is origination and destination fueling. So if you're parking at a location where you are staying overnight, you're parking in a location where you're going to be working, you're parking in a location where you're going to be shopping, you're parking in a location where you're going to be there for a period of time, why not fuel up instead of having to stop, fuel up at another location, and you can take care of all these services at once, and kind of in a sense, just get into your vehicle with the equivalent of like a full tank. So the locations that are positioning themselves for the future, that are ROI oriented, customer oriented, and that are not stagnant organizations that are leaning forward, leaning into this new economy, are the type of partners that are best suited for us.
Amazing. I like that idea of efficiency. So taking care of charging while you're also accomplishing tasks that you needed to do that day, whether it's recreational, going shopping, or while you're at work and your car is down in the facility and you trust where your car is parked and don't have to stop at a sketchy gas station or anything like that. So that
Exactly.
efficiency model is really important. Just thinking about the different types of parking across the country. So there's commercial parking, there is residential parking, there is airport parking, there's university parking. What is the kind of percentage or approach Zevtron has to approaching those different types of parking in the industry?
Yeah, so that is interesting, and that goes back to use cases that I was mentioning earlier, where our software platform is designed to handle these different use cases. And you mentioned a couple that are like residential is pretty straightforward. Multi-unit dwelling is pretty straightforward, and our software platform, that's very efficient for that. If it's a multi-use parking facility for residential, then we can really activate a lot of opportunities for the asset owner. When it comes to campuses, I mean, that's a very unique example because campuses handled so many different drivers and so many different use cases. For example, you have guests that are just coming in for for a day. They're not going to be there again, maybe for another till the next quarter, the next semester. That's one use case. You have staff. That's another use case. You have students. That's another use case. You have weekend, events where every weekend you may have an event there and you have some drivers. And what our software allows a campus to do is set up rules for different credential types for students, where you can use a credential that the student is parking there. And there's rules that can be applied for both the rate or pricing for the charging, for access, and what have you. And it could be billed back directly to the student. Transient or guest drivers can be a different price point, and the chargers may only work at certain days of the week or certain hours of the day. Staff, for example, may have completely different rules. Fleet vehicles, another example. You don't want to charge the driver of the fleet vehicle, but you may want to bill them back to their department, and we can facilitate all of that. So campus is a really interesting example because all of the different use cases and the rules that we can apply and the integrations that we are designed to tie into with other business systems. And then airports, another great example. It's a long duration stay, and we have a technology on the hardware side that applies across all of those different parking segments that you just mentioned. But airports in particular are very interesting because the average duration of stay at an airport is much longer. And it's you have what you call your level 1 chargers that are not set up to report back information. They're not networkable. They don't provide access control, which also could tie into charging a fee for that. But they have a lower cost for the infrastructure to deploy them. On the other hand, you have level 2 chargers that provide all that ability because they're networkable, but the infrastructure costs are much higher. So we have a patented technology that allows for a much, much more cost-effective deployment and of level 2 chargers. And then tying that in with our dynamic load management system allows a lot more chargers on what's considered to be a traditional circuit size. So they can, an airport can get a lot more chargers for their infrastructure money. And then we can also manage the charging of the vehicles at a pace that is associated with their duration of stay. So we go through a very, very efficient user experience to understand how long they're going to be staying at the airport. And then we can manage the flow of energy to their vehicle. And what a lot of people don't realize is when you plug in the level 2 charger, it's going to go generally kind of full throttle, that the vehicle will allow. And then it charges fully and then it tapers off. And then the vehicle's consuming energy. And then it's going to say, hey, charger, I need more energy. And then the charger is going to start charging again. So we take it in a little bit of a different fashion to minimize the relative infrastructure cost per charger, and then also provide a curve, if you will, of energy charging that is maybe better priced for the cost of the airport because of the timing of when we can charge, and also timed with when the user is going to be or the driver is going to be coming back, so that it's a more cost effective and it's a better experience for everybody. So each of those market verticals all have a different need. And generally, if there's more than one use case, that's when we really, our software shines.
Wow, I had not considered all the different ways to use the credentials on a university campus to help facilitate the type of charging that gets applied to them and the way the payment works, whether it's bill back. So that is so intelligent because every student has an ID, every staff has an ID number, and being able to utilize those. And then fleets are also interesting. So it sounds like you guys have thought of everything, which I love. Also, the concept of the dynamic charging. So the word dynamic has been used heavily here in the industry, but I hadn't heard it used in this context. And it is so, so, so interesting. So when a parker comes to an airport, on your software, do they enter in any information about how long they're going to be gone, or is it an average from market studies that you guys have done to help facilitate that dynamic charging?
So great question. And what we can do, and this is if the airport wants it.
Mhm.
So, and this is kind of a unique aspect of how we operate. We don't work off of a mobile app. We work off of a web app. And what that does is it accomplishes a few things. Is we can be very dynamic in terms of what we deliver for the user experience. And one of the things that we we don't have to deliver is the frustration of downloading yet another mobile app and then hoping that there's a good enough connectivity at the location. If I don't have the mobile app, we work off of a web app with it, which it requires a lot less bandwidth, but it also offers us the opportunity to customize the user experience very, very efficiently. So if, for example, an airport says, hey, yeah, we want to pursue that deployment, that type of a deployment, we can actually ask the driver, when will you return? Or how many days before you'll return to your vehicle? Just a very simple, non-invasive question. And from there, now we know, and we can push the energy to the vehicle on a pace and to make sure that their vehicle's fully charged at that time. And charging at night when the cost of energy is a lot less expensive. So we can do some really cool things like that. And it's a very non-invasive question. And that's if the airport wants. If the airport doesn't want, they want to say, for example, we don't want to do that. We don't, at this stage, very early in our deployment of EV chargers, we want to just deploy a couple of EV chargers. We can do the KISS method. Just keep it simple. Everybody gets treated the same way. They come in and it could be free, but we'll give the reporting to the airport, or it can be, hey, just Google and Apple Pay, click, scan the QR code on the display of the charger, click, and paid and done. Or we can iteratively get a little bit more sophisticated in the deployment as the airport is ready to do that.
Absolutely. Well, that sounds like an amazing resource for all the different types of parking across the country. So with Zevtron, how did you guys, like, if I'm a parker and I am arriving at a commercial office space, can you describe what my experience will be start to finish if I am a tenant in the building, a monthly parker? What does that look like for me? And then on the flip side, if I'm a visitor at a commercial office building, so sticking with commercial, but I'm a visitor and I'm not a tenant, and this is my first time there, maybe my last time there, I'm just coming for a one-off visit. Can you describe those two customer experiences?
Absolutely. So let's start with the guest that comes in. They're not there regularly, first time there, what have you. So they would pull in an asset that has a gate. They would pull their ticket. They would pull to their parking location, and then they would say, okay, I want to charge my vehicle. There's a QR code on the display of the charger. They would scan the QR code, and what would be presented to them is the brand that the owner wants to put forward, and it would provide them with perhaps a question. And this is all defined by the asset manager or the asset owner. And for example, it could be, do you want to pay with credit card? Just a small button. Or do you want to pay with parking? And if they want to pay with credit card, they can tap that button, and then it's presented with, like a normal credit card transaction. You can pay with Apple Pay, Google Pay, or you can put your credit card in. It's that simple. And then we would provide feedback to them with the charging. On the other hand, they can just say, I want to pay with parking. Maybe it's a lot more efficient. Maybe for for their expense report or what have you. It's just an easier. I'm going to get one bill. It's all transacted once. They would just tap the button, pay with parking. Our system activates the phone's camera. They would just scan the ticket, and then we would validate that is an active ticket, a real ticket with the PARCS, and then we would just activate the charge, and everything would be consolidated on the PARCS system, and they would just pay one time as their billed. And that's that simple. On a monthly parker side, they would scan the QR code again. And then what they would do is they would have a credential that would be assigned to them. And again, back to the buttons. Do you want to pay with credit card? Do you want to pay with parking? Or you would have a button with monthly parker. And you just tap the monthly parker, and you would have been provided in advance a credential, and you just tap. And if they allow everything to be resident, the credential, then they would just tap the button. Our system would know that phone is from a credentialed person, and all they would have to do is tap it, and they're off to the races. So very, very non-invasive, very easy, very quick, and again, customizable to meet the use cases and at the facility and the experience that the parking management company or the asset owner wants to present forward to their customers, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's all about providing a very good customer experience and making money off of it, which is the exercise as a whole for the asset owner and asset manager.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we in the industry are all here to obviously run a business, right? And make money at the same time, but also provide that customer service, which is foundational to parking. Just that's the way parking started, was as a customer service industry. And so it sounds like Zevtron is checking all the boxes. I have not quite heard an EV solution providing all of these things, the white label, the asset owner tailorability, all of those things. And then the customer facing aspects, I mean, can it get any better? I don't know. Do you have anything else, Bob, that you would like to share about Zevtron as we close up today?
Well, I think the main takeaway is that we are a parking industry centric company, and we come at it from utilizing best in class partners and using best practices. And, for example, as I mentioned at the beginning, is the parking experience being at the forefront and working with companies like PCI, who's a best in class parking operator, and their asset owners know, hey, this is a great company. And when a customer comes in, they know it's going to be taken care of, and it's going to be taken care of very quickly because they have boots on the ground. They're responsive. They know where everything is. And if there's a problem with the charger, they can react immediately. Where in the EV charging industry, generally, the way it often operates is, hey, there's a broken charger. They're calling the property manager. They're calling somebody. Property manager's involved. Okay, somebody call the EV charger company. They call the EV charger company. EV charger company has to, get a local contractor in the area. They go out, look at the chargers. Hey, we have to replace this part. Then they have to go get the part. It's just, it's kind of like the spiral in a different direction, as opposed to relying on the company that's actually managing the parking asset and who we partner with and work with most closely. So overall, it's just it's a better way to approach deploying EV charging and making it a part of the parking experience.
Absolutely. A one-stop shop, if you will, but with that customizability, which gets lost whenever these partnerships are sometimes developed, is the customizable qualities of the technology or the vendor get kind of muddled down. But it sounds like you guys are not letting that happen, but still valuing the relationships and capitalizing on the relationships to meet the needs of both the parker and the asset owner, which I don't know that there's a better way to do it than that. So that's really impressive. It's hard, but I'm sure it shows to everybody that's involved whenever they come across Zevtron equipment, whether they're from the purchasing side or the user side. We are currently, just to add a little story here at the end, we're currently working at a facility over on the East Coast that they have EV chargers, and I can tell you right offhand, their experience from both the customer side and the asset owner and the parking manager side looks nothing like this. So this is definitely unique, just from your description. So I really appreciate you sharing the resources that Zevtron provides, the philosophy behind what you guys do, the opportunities with your hardware and software, and how those can help with the customer experience. So Bob, thank you for being here today. It was wonderful chatting with you and hearing about Zevtron. And listeners, if you have any questions, Bob, how can they reach you?
Send me an email at bandrews@zevtron.com, Zevtron.com. And happy to connect with you and see if we can help you solve a problem like you're sharing one of your clients may have. We'd be happy to talk to them or work with you to talk to them and improve their experience and their customers' experience. We know there's a lot of EV chargers out in the market that have been purchased over the years and that are having some challenges. We get a lot of calls for rip and replace programs. We have a very compelling rip and replace program that is available. So please call us. And if you're looking at a new deployment or looking at some grants that you'd like to see if they're available for deploying some EV chargers, give us an email, and happy to talk to you.
Amazing. Well, thanks, Bob. And if you want to reach out to Zevtron, like you said, Zevtron, go for it. And they are a great resource. So please utilize them. And we thank you for listening here on this episode of the Our Parking Industry Podcast, Inside the Lane. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day.
parking industry is always evolving, and so are the conversations around it.
So come back each month to Inside the Lane for insights, ideas, and solutions.
We invite you to follow, subscribe, and join TPN and featured vendors on social media to stay up to date.
Thanks for being with us inside the lane.